RFK Jr. was on a podcast with Theo Von, who, despite his recent political, change or repositioning, you can't hate people because they have politics with which you disagree even vehemently. You can hate people for promoting violence. You can hate people for promoting evil debauchery, but you can't really, or at least it's sort of unfair, just to hate because people are evolving politically, even if you think it's a devolving. Theo Von is quite funny. I think he's, I think he's wrong on some politics, but life is a beautiful thing that will teach you the lessons you need so long as you can live long enough. RFK Jr. was on and said something which is, what's amazing is it's funny. It's refreshingly honest. If anybody knew RFK Jr.'s history, it wouldn't even be news to you. I'll play you the 11-second clip because this is the clip that goes viral. People, being the short attention span, low information idiots that they are, and I am not one of them, by the way. You see an 11-second clip. If you're not asking yourself what was the 30 seconds before and the 30 seconds after, you're an idiot. You'll learn. It'll just take some time. You'll retweet something and absolutely misrepresent it because it was taken totally out of context. This wasn't so much. But this is the clip that went viral that set the internet on fuego.
And I said, I'm not scared of a germ. I used to snort cocaine off of toilet seats. And I know this disease will kill me.
Right.
Like if I don't. And I said, I'm not scared of a germ. I used to snort cocaine off of toilet seats.
In some ways, RFK Jr. and I are very different. Even in my younger years, my adventurous, boisterous years, if I ever went to do a number 2 in a public toilet, and it would be the last thing I'd ever want to do, I would put toilet paper, double, depending if it's already 2-ply, and typically it's not in these cheap-ass public stalls. You would take a strip, fold it over one side. Take the strip, fold it over other side. Take a smaller strip, fold it over back side. Typically, you don't do the front side because in the men's bathrooms, they have that slot there. But you keep your junk off of that unprotected spot where all the people's dribble and urine get. It's disgusting. Public toilets are disgusting. I would protect my ass at all costs when I go number 2 in a public stall. RFK Jr., who has a history, and it's an antiquated one, of drug abuse, addiction. Back in the days when he was in the throes of addiction, you're at a club. Where are you going to do it? You're going to possibly go into a bathroom and do coke off a toilet seat. All right. People melted down. Imagine if what's his face, Fauci, had said something like this. Let me just see which one I want to start with in terms of. Now, we got to start with the full context before we actually get into this. I'm going to play it through. I'm going to shut my big mouth for 2 minutes and 20 seconds if I can. Take bets as whether or not you think I will. Anna Matson, investigative journalist, podcast host, political accountable, holding all politicians accountable, health policy, agricultural, recent events. Anna R. Matson writes, since people are only catching the snorting cocaine off the toilet line, you should probably hear the rest. Theo Von and RFK Jr. met at recovery meetings, and Bobby has been sober for over 40 years. Theo Von had his own issues as well. Who better to help those who suffer with addiction than someone who has been there and carried it out? Listen to this. Let me make sure it's not going to be too loud. Might be too loud. Here, listen.
Secretary
now. You can still call me Bobby.
Okay, cool.
Theo and I know each other from, can I say where we know each other?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we've been in recovery together for years.
You for almost over 40 years, right?
Yeah, 43 years.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we met each other.
Yeah,
at like 7 a.m. meetings.
Yeah.
Above the bank over there. That was a
They
good
shut
meeting.
those down during COVID.
I know. That was.
But by the way, the reason why he asked Theo Von if he's allowed saying is because it's confidentiality of those meetings. And you can only disclose it, obviously with authorization, but not of others. So the two of them are at liberty to the extent they both consent.
Heartbreaking. That was one of the most.
We still did live meetings every day during COVID. We moved from the bank. There was about 15 of us who moved from the bank, and we got into the Palisades Playhouse, which now is burned down during the during the fire, but it was kind of a pirate group. And, I mean, for me, and I said this when we came in, and I said, I don't care what happens. I'm going to a meeting every day.
Yeah.
I've want to highlight one thing here. The people are outraged at the statements back in the day, 43 years ago. I would do cocaine. I'm not worried about germs. They're more outraged about that than the fact that the idiot, tyrannical, murderous government shut down live AA meetings, because as if relapse and drug overdose was the lesser of the risks than COVID for healthy people. The government caused immeasurable, uncountable death and suffering and misery. And the talking head lefty Democrat idiots with TDS who want to rail against any member of Trump's government, even if he was a long-standing Democrat and the pride of the party, they're angrier at what a drug addict did 43 years ago after 43 years of being clean and sober. More angry at that than a government shutting down without science, without legal authority, as far as I'm concerned, live AA, NA addiction meetings. Okay. There are your priorities, dumbass.
And I said, I'm not scared of a germ. I used to snort cocaine off of toilet seats. And I know this disease will kill me.
Right.
Like if I don't treat it, which means going to meetings every day, it's just bad for my life. So for me, it was survival. And then, that the opportunity to help another alcoholic, that's the secret sauce of the meetings. And that's what keeps us all sober and keeps us, from self-will.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you get reminded. I mean, I go to meetings and I get reminded that other people, I hate to say exist, but just that other people are, just that I'm not alone. I think, I get I see face. I'm like, oh yeah, I care about this person. They care about me. It's like, for some reason in my addiction, it's like, there's a part of me that forgets that people care about me and that I care about them. And so, but when I go to meetings, it's like it immediately fills that whole backlog in, but I have to go and kind of recharge that battery a lot.
It's amazing. And it's an insight that you really could only have to the extent that you've suffered from it and understand what they're talking about. And, Viva and Lord Buckley go to the movies. Mark Robert is a rehab partner. He wrote a book on rehab. He coaches, or I forget what the term is, the companion to people in rehab. And, he came over and we were talking about addiction, and they have to go every day. And I say, well, what happens if you don't go? And he says, well, what happens if you don't brush your teeth? Like, you don't have to brush your teeth every day, but are you going to feel good if you do it? If you don't brush your teeth, are you going to feel things building up in you, making you increasingly unhealthy? So that it's like brushing your teeth. You do it every day. It keeps you healthy. It keeps you sane. And people are flipping out because of an anecdote about addiction, as opposed to the way the government probably caused countless unnecessary deaths by forcing these people who relied on this community back into isolation. And it was a line from the Amy Winehouse documentary. I hope it is, because I've been saying it is for a long time. Life will teach you a lot of lessons if you can live long enough. And Amy Winehouse's curse is that she didn't live long enough to learn certain lessons of life, as is the case of many people who die of overdose, self-harm, and other such things, where it's the RFK Juniors with 43 plus years of clean and sober living that can teach you the lessons that they've learned by the grace of God, having survived what they went through. Here's a dude named Jared Schultz. I don't know who he is. I mean, someone said he's related to the Democrat Party. You could just tell people's political orientations based on how they respond to that clip, because the dumber the response, the more Democrat they tend to be. And no, I'm not thinking in the left-right paradigm. I'm thinking in the red pill, blue pill. I'm thinking in the govern me harder, daddy, and the don't govern me at all, sir. I have a dad and it's not you. It'll be my father and it'll be God, and it won't be government. Jared Schultz says, ladies and gentlemen, our Secretary of Health. a man, was this the 11-second? Yeah, this was the 11-second one, not the 2-minute and 20-second. To which I say, I might have to learn how to be softer on Twitter, but I was soft on Twitter 5 years ago. Hey, you arrogant puke. Robert has been clean for twice as long as your entitled, pimpled ass has been on this earth. I had to look it up. Kid's 22 years old. The kid's 22 years old, has about as much life experience as, and not that I have much more. I'm, 47? 47. I'm 46. I'm going to be 47 this year. I should know that because it's 47, the year of the Donald Trump presidency. 22-year-old arrogant prick. That's what you are when you're basically 18 to 22. Play that video of, when you're 18 to 22, you know more than anybody else on earth. Dude's been clean for longer, twice as long as you've been alive. And this is your judgmental kick at someone who has survived and should be an inspiration to people around him. But wait, there's more. Other people. Who I couldn't respond to. I love it when I find out that there's somebody who blocked me and I don't know why. This is not the right one. This is something unrelated that I was going to talk about as well in our vivabarneslaw.locals.com after party. There was another woman who took to try to kick RFK Jr. when they thought he was down. And also someone who could use a little bit of life lessons. Why am I not going to be able to get it? Am I going to be able to get it here? I think I'm going to have to follow my Twitter thread down. There we go. Okay, good. Here, let's go down here. Follow the trail. This is a tweet from Shannon Watts. First of all, using someone's Lord's name in vain. Now, incidentally, I was listening to Jordan Peterson's We Who Wrestle with God, or He Who Wrestles with God. The sin was not using the Lord's name in vain to say, oh my God. People say, don't use the Lord's name in vain. The actual sin was using the Lord's name in vain to pretend that you were a God, or using the Lord's name in vain to pretend that something else was a God that competed with capital G God. So it's not actually the saying Jesus Christ or, oh my God, that's a sin. It's a misunderstood thing, but still be a little courteous. Shannon Watts says, Jesus, imagine if Dr. Fauci had said this. Oh, to which I said, I couldn't reply directly to Shannon Watts because she's blocked me for some reason. She's a New York Times bestseller, fired up. But if I could have quote posted her haughty and not H-O-T-T-Y, H-A-U-G-H-T-Y and arrogant judgmental comments, I would have said, Fauci would never have said this because Fauci is incapable of being honest. Yes, Shannon, addicts do dangerous and self-destructive things. Kennedy's life is a testament to the power of the spirit. You should learn something from it. And then I just had to go back and remind her of one thing. Also, Shannon, Anthony Fauci literally tortured beagles. But you've got your moral priorities, stories of drug addiction that are over 40 years old. Now I think I understand why you blocked me. Do we all remember this? This was like Ted Lieu's only moment to shine. Bipartisan legislators demand answers from Fauci on cruel puppy experiments. Oh, no. Imagine if RFK Jr. came out and tortured puppies. Oh, no, but they freaked out when they thought he ate a dog when it was actually a goat. But Fauci can torture them, and that's fine. But RFK shares an anecdote of addiction from 43 years ago. And these talking head jackasses throw their faux, hypocritical, virtue signaling hissy fit on the internet. The reality is, RFK Jr. is an inspiration and should be an inspiration to many. A role model. And the people trying to kick him when they think he's down or kick someone who they think is beneath them. My goodness. Be careful not to trip on your own feet and smash your face on the pavement. I made that up, and I'm sticking to that analogy.